All right, welcome to the Chatham Township public meeting of January 20th, 2022. We have just returned from our executive session. Let's all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Before we get into, I know the reason why everybody else is here tonight, I just wanted to say a couple words. I recently attended services for a person who was among Chatham Township's finest citizens, Otto Vopius. Sorry about that. Would you please join me in a moment of silence? Otto William Volpelius passed away on January 7th of this year. Otto and his wife Dorothy moved to Chatham Township, New Jersey in 1953. He joined the Chatham Township Volunteer Fire Department in 1955, actively serving for 60 years, including chief between 1959 and 1965. He was four-time Firefighter of the Year and earned several life-saving and distinguished service awards. Otto joined the Township of Chatham Public Works Department in 1957, retiring in 1990 as Director of Municipal Development, serving as Special Police Officer and participating in emergency management. He spent 28 years on the Planning Board, many years as Secretary and Vice Chairman. After retirement, he served on the Board of Directors for the Fairmont Cemetery. Otto was devoted to his wife, Dorothy, and family. May he always be remembered for his life and contributions to Chatham Township. Rest in peace, Otto. In another loss, Mario Bronzino passed away also on January 7, 2022, at his home in East Hanover. Mario was part of Chatham Township's Department of Public Works for 33 years before retiring. He grew up in Madison along with his two brothers and four sisters. He was 58 and he is survived by his wife, children, and grandchildren. Rest in peace, Mario. Switching tones, I'm very excited to officially kick off our first full meeting of our newly reorganized committee. As your new mayor, I'm so excited for all the positive changes we will bring in the township for the first few months. I know you will see improvements in Chatham Township shortly because the work has already begun. We have a busy schedule. Tonight, this includes a brief presentation from our open space chairman. You will see in the first few months of this reorganized committee a renewed commitment to maintain and improve our open space. We will vote on a resolution to upgrade and enhance our open space this evening. This change will improve recreational resources while enhancing access and public safety in our open spaces. This resolution allows us to achieve results without increasing our budget, without increasing our debt, and without raising municipal taxes. You will see more of this type of problem solving from this committee, and I ask for your patience as we work toward our goals in a short time frame. I'd like to point out that there are two official communications outlets for our municipal government online. Those are Chatham Township official website and our official Facebook page. Our communications committee will be monitoring the official Facebook page. Residents sometimes post questions within other private groups and places that are not monitored. Please refer to our official website and Facebook page for information. If you have any specific questions for our Township Committee, you can email us at any time. Each of our official email addresses are posted on the Township's websites. And some final housekeeping items. I have to announce the Environmental Commission changes. Jim Connolly will be an alternate and Matt Palmer will be reappointed. Additionally, Mareza Estevez has been appointed to chair. On the planning board, Brian Dwelling will move from an alternate to a regular seat. Tonight's agenda begins with swearing in two brand new female police officers. We sincerely welcome you both to our community. I commend your individual decision to serve in law enforcement and specifically to protect us. Tonight you will take an oath, a statement of commitment and dedication. You will join a stellar police force known for integrity, accountability, and excellence. As you swear in, please know this: Chatham Township needs you, Chatham Township supports you, and Chatham Township thanks you. I hope this is a cherished day not only for you, but also for those you love. Welcome. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
I have a couple of things I want to pull out from the consent agenda. We had a few things. We put everything in the consent agenda, and there were some things I thought we should have discussion. 2022-51, change in legal strategy. 52, appointing the township attorney. And 53, the use of open space tax for parks and upgrades. I thought 57 was coming out. Is 57 back in?
Well, so 49 and 57, Mayor, I believe you and Mr. Lewis wanted to hold off
Yeah,
on
we
that until the
need
next
more
meeting.
time to review that.
Yeah, so those
It's
two,
been tabled.
yeah, so those two we'll save for the next meeting.
Okay.
So it's 51, 52, and 53, Mrs. Ewell, that you wanted to?
Yeah, so 51, 52, 53, yeah.
Okay.
And you're saying it's amended, 49 and 57 are being carried to the next session?
Mhm.
Yes.
Great.
I think we should just handle.
51, I mean, we've kind of battled that one out, or 51 and 52, kind of battled that out last week.
No, I didn't have an opportunity to interview the attorney, so I'd like that opportunity. And we haven't
All right.
discussed the whole
All right,
process.
well,
Yeah.
let's speak what you want to say now, and we'll just do it.
Yeah, we'll wait till that.
If we can take care of the approval of agenda, what we can do is,
Agenda with those
we can-
three removed.
yeah, and then if you want to deal with those first, then move into the other items on the
Okay.
agenda.
Yes,
So let's
we're gonna. Yeah.
move, is there a motion to approve the agenda with those three resolutions pulled out? So moved.
I'll second that if we can. Yeah, I'll second that motion.
Roll call.
All in favor?
Just all in favor.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, so we have, let's handle 52 now.
If we just get through the police.
No, let's
No,
handle
for
52
sure.
right
So
now.
we're gonna handle 52 right now.
Let's just get
if this
this
is
on.
the agenda.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okey dokey.
So 52 is the appointment of township attorney.
Well, why don't we go in order? 51, the legal strategy first, because I have questions on that.
Well,
No, we
we
can-
can do that, let's just do the attorney.
Okay. With all due respect, Mr. King, I've heard great things about you from my dear old friend Laura Ali, and I appreciate your long-term service in the military. As somebody who comes from a long military family, I have great respect for folks who serve in the military. So you're an attorney and you're in the military, so you can appreciate that I have questions. The process I was not comfortable with. So I want the opportunity to interview you the way that my colleagues had an opportunity to interview you. And I did want to ask a question, because this is a public contract that we're granting, this discussion should occur in the public. So I did want to find out from my colleagues some of the background on, we're trying to hire the best for our township. This is not a private attorney, this is our township attorney. So my question was, who else was interviewed? What other firms were interviewed?
Well, I'll tell you the process. Is there any more questions? I'm not going to name attorneys. That would be inappropriate. But would
That's totally appropriate. It's a public contract. Normally you have an RFQ process, so it's totally appropriate.
Well, actually,
It's not.
the way that the town
historically,
has done it has been by the process where there is no RFQ sent out. You haven't sent out an RFQ in, I think, probably 11 years. Actually, the new council has now instituted that to send out a RFQ. So what you did before is your prior committee just voted on a non-fair and open process.
Yeah, actually it was
All terms.
instituted into the bylaws about a
And
year or two
never-
ago.
And never followed.
About a year or two ago. There was COVID delay, but you're right. It was instituted into the bylaws because we saw value in issuing RFQs every 3
COVID is
years.
blamed for a lot of things, but to do a Zoom call, to do RFQ.
Either
is
way,
not one of them. And
yeah.
many towns that I've been involved in during COVID, we also did RFQ. So I understand that it can be used as an excuse, but the fact is that for the last 11 years or so, you did a non-fair.
Okay, so are you objecting to me asking questions so I can understand how you're being nominated and so I can make my decision on whether or not to?
No,
Vote in
I'm just
favor?
trying to set the record straight, because
Okay.
I think there was a lot of misinformation prior, and I didn't get a chance to talk prior at the last meeting with regard to how the process went and
Yes.
how this township would hire their professionals.
Yeah, in the absence of an RFQ, I would expect some kind of interview process. And I don't even have feedback from my colleagues as to why they picked you. So I'm just asking, who was interviewed and why did you choose Mr. King over the others?
Okay, well, we narrowed the choices down from about 9 attorneys to 3 candidates. We interviewed the 3. We provided the opportunity for all committee members to interview the 3. Stacy, you objected to the process and was quite confused on the law, so you didn't just participate in it. So we moved forward. We selected the attorney that we thought would best represent the town.
Yeah, just for clarification, I questioned the process because the guidance in the past was that it was not consistent with the Open Public Meetings Act, which was guidance from our prior attorney as well as from our township clerk, and it was our process in the past. But then you had said if I was going to question the process, then I wouldn't be part of the process. So it was irrelevant either way because I wasn't comfortable.
But if you have any questions of me, I can go through my resume,
That would be great.
my qualifications and my certifications.
Yeah, so who were the 3 candidates interviewed?
I'm not naming names at this point in such a public session. That would be inappropriate. Because we may use them as for another, we will be, a part of our change in legal structure, we may be using one of these attorneys.
Yeah, it's
So-
a public contract, so it's totally appropriate to say.
To name the
But
people
either
who
way, I'll
didn't get
ask
the contract?
Mr. King, could you just provide a brief bio, please?
Yes. Well, I went to LaSalle University. I was in the ROTC. After graduating from LaSalle University, I was commissioned as an officer. I served in the first Gulf War with the 18th Airborne Corps. After the Gulf War, I did my time. I was discharged honorably. I went to law school. I did law school in 2.5 years. I went to Benjamin Cardozo Yeshiva University in New York City. I clerked with Judge Gannon in Passaic County. I then also went into the prosecutor's office. I then went to work with a law firm, Dorsey and Fisher. That was primarily a municipal law firm. It dealt with joint insurance funds. I dealt with municipalities. We were the attorney for Mount Olive, Booton, and a couple of other entities as well. And then I went into my own practice. Currently, I'm a certified municipal diplomat. That is a certification from Rutgers. There's 6 courses. The 6 courses deal with municipal law. You have to take a test on it, and I have to keep that certification up. I'm also certified by the New Jersey Supreme Court as a certified municipal attorney. I've represented both Democratic boards and entities as well as Republican. I served as law director in the city of Perth Amboy for about 4 years. I served as municipal prosecutor in Hanover Township, Rockaway Township, and Mine Hill. It's a joint court. I was a prosecutor in Booton, Parsippany. I covered joint court in Madison for Morris Township. I was conflicts. My partner was the attorney for them, Morris Township. I am the attorney for the Madison Board of Health, the Mount Olive Board of Health, and Hanover Board of Health. I am an attorney for the Parsippany Zoning Board, also the Fire District in Parsippany. I defend municipalities in Title 59 matters and housing authorities. Also, I do environmental work. I'm the claims adjuster for the Environmental Joint Insurance Fund. I've been in practice for the last 20 some odd years. My office has always been in Morris County.
It's very clear you're very qualified, and
most
Thank
attorneys, municipal attorneys, are not certified from Rutgers. and,
Okay.
and don't hold that. It's not that.
The one point I was confused on, where are you serving as a municipal attorney in this capacity in other towns?
Yeah, I was the law director, yes, for Perth Amboy, which was about 60,000 residents.
You're still serving as Perth Amboy's?
No, I do legal work for the mayor lost, and in that form of government, once the mayor
Okay.
goes over people. But I've handled various cases, the removal of their chief of police, that went all the way up to the appellate division, removal of tenured firemen for various different reasons. So employment law, I've done that. I did a lot of that there.
Okay, thank you. And in your firm, how many other attorneys are there?
There are 4 other attorneys. I can talk to my firm. One.
Is there any other discussions? Because this is not a full interview. We're not doing an
I
interview
just have
right
a couple
now.
more questions for him.
But we're gonna wrap this up, because this is not an interview process right
We can
now.
move to make a time limit, Ms. Ewald, if you need us to do that. But if you can move it along, please, it would be helpful.
Yeah, no, I was happy to do it later at the right time where we normally do it, so that the entire police department didn't have to wait through this.
That's
But you chose to
no,
put it, so let's
because we
go.
need an
I
attorney.
have every right
We
to
need a
interview our
to
attorney
represent
on
us.
behalf of our township. Okay, have you dealt with builder's remedy cases?
No, I have not.
The law tends to be gray, and I am curious. I had explained earlier that the guidance that I had received in open public meetings and our tradition in the past was that only 2 members would interview, and then that person would come in to public session and be interviewed in public session. So, but your guidance is that it's okay for more than 2 members of the committee to conduct interviews? I'm just trying to understand when there's gray area, kind of where you fall in that spectrum.
No, I don't believe that's how the interview process went. There were not more than 2 people.
Oh, not at one time, but in other words, you could have 2 interview at one time and then 2 interview at another time?
Yes, you can.
Okay.
You can have a subcommittee that interview, and a lot of municipalities do that. They have subcommittees that interview and then recommend. Unfortunately, as I had mentioned earlier on, your township did not have a process whereby you hired your professionals for the last, I think, 11 years by that process that now you're describing.
Was instituted, yes, the RFQ process.
It may have been instituted on paper, but the prior governing body did not follow that. So you're trying to compare something that you never did. I don't know why, but.
I mean, RFQ was executed in a number of places. It just so
Okay,
happened.
point
it
of
wasn't
order,
for
this
municipal
resolution before us is to whether or not to approve Mr. King as our attorney.
I just have one more
This
question.
is not an interview. This is not an interview. That we've given you plenty of slack here to do what you need to do.
Are you running the meeting?
Well,
I think the mayor's-
I'm
I agree
making
with
a point of
I
order,
agree
which
with
is I'm allowed to do in Robert's Rule of Order. So I would I object to this line of.
I agree. Does anybody else have a quick anything to say? Otherwise, let's go for a roll call vote.
We still need a motion in a second.
Motion.
I move to that we vote to approve Mr. King.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, roll call.
Mrs. Ewald?
No.
Mrs. Findalco?
No.
Mr. Lois?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Hamilton?
Yes.
And Mayor Felice?
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right. Let's move
Move on to the office.
to the oath of office. The first officer.
This is Deputy Mayor Hamilton. Could I just interject for a
Yes.
minute?
Yes, please.
I think everybody knows that I'm operating on a multiple hour time difference in the middle of a proceeding and have things early in the morning. So I will defer. It is my intention to back out of this meeting at this point. And I just want to make the record here that was
Thank you, Mr. Hamilton.
Okay.
All right, so the first officer we have is Carolina Cortez. Did I say that right? Okay. Carolina grew up in Rutherford, New Jersey, and graduated from Rutherford High School. She continued her education at Rutgers University, where she double majored in criminal justice and sociology, graduating with a Bachelor of Arts. While at Rutgers University, Carolina was a member of the Rutgers women's volleyball team as a starting sitter and outside hitter. After graduation, Carolina spent her time working as a volleyball coach and pursuing her passion for a career in law enforcement. Carolina has spent the last several years as a special law enforcement officer with the Rutherford Police Department and has been a police dispatcher for the towns of Englewood and Westwood Police Departments. In September 2021, Carolina applied for and tested to become a police officer with the Chatham Township Police Department. After a very rigorous hiring process, including physical testing, several interviews with police personnel, and an extremely thorough background check, she was offered the position of police officer recruit. Carolina will begin her formal police training on Monday, where she begins the Morris County Police Academy. Her recruit training will last until her graduation from the Police Academy on June 9th, 2022. Tonight, we welcome her into the ranks of the Chatham Township Police Department. Joining Carolina tonight are her parents, Andres, did I say that right? I'm sorry, and Beta, brother Chris, and sister and brother-in-law Angelica and Jeff, and her boyfriend Charles. All right, do you want to come down and administer the oath of office? Do you want to hold
Where you going? Where you want to be?
I will, I'll go get her. No problem. Whatever you feel comfortable with. Whatever you want to do. You want pictures?
You have two heads.
Okay, well then you hold that, Mama, come here. Switch. Done.
Then let me go over there.
It works better if Ashley's over there. It works better.
Okay, yes.
Because then your
And
right
then
hand's
maybe
up and
down,
your
go
left hand's
behind
on
you
the bottom.
over here.
I just went.
Whatever, you tell us where to go.
Yeah, all right, so then let's back up, sorry. Okay, whatever. Is it a good picture shot? Okay. Whatever you guys feel comfortable with. These are the pictures set.
Is it left, right hand, does that matter?
Right hand. Or no, right hand up, your left hand on the Bible, sorry.
I don't want to eat it.
Okay. I state your name,
I, Carolina Cortez,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
and that I will bear true faith
and I will bear true faith
and allegiance to the same
and allegiance to the same
and to the governments established
and to the governments established
in the United States
in the United States
and in this state
and in this state
under the authority of the people.
under the authority of the people.
I do further solemnly swear
I do further solemnly swear
that I will faithfully,
that I will faithfully,
impartially,
impartially,
and justly perform
and justly perform
all the duties of the office of police officer
all of the duties of the office of police officer
according to the best of my ability,
according to the best of my ability,
so help you God.
so help me God. Thank you.
Thank you. Here, I'll take that. Are you?
Just kidding.
Any more?
Where do you want me to stand?
Oh, in the middle, right here.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm thanking you. Well, thank you for taking my
Oh, no, I'll read it. Or what's, no. Right here? Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Okay. The next officer we will be swearing in tonight is Jessica Cortez. Jessica grew up in East Brunswick, New Jersey, and graduated from East Brunswick High School. She continued her education at Middlesex County College, where she graduated with an Associates of Science in Homeland Security Studies. She continued her education and attended the New Jersey University, where she graduated with a Bachelor's of Science in National Security Studies. While at the New Jersey City University, she was a member of the National Society of Leadership and Success. Jessica has been awarded the New Jersey Seal of Biliteracy, Spanish. After graduation, Jessica worked as a security officer with SSC and also as a fitness representative with Jersey Strong. In September 2021, Jessica applied for and tested to become a police officer with the Chatham Township Police Department. After a few rigorous hiring process, including physical testing, several interviews with police personnel, and an extremely thorough background check, she was offered the position of police officer recruit. Jessica will begin her formal police training on Monday, where she begins the Morris County Police Academy. Her recruit training will last until her graduation from the police academy in June 9th, 2022. Tonight, we welcome her to the ranks of the Chatham Township Police Department. Joining Jessica tonight are her parents Bert and Ileana and her sister Adriana. Can you want to come up? Who wants the whole Bible? Perfect. And microphone?
Thank you.
I'll try and go slow. I state your name,
I, Jessica Cortez,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
of the United States
of the United States
and the Constitution
and the Constitution
of the State of New Jersey,
of the State of New Jersey,
and that I will bear true faith
and I will bear true faith
and allegiance to the same
and allegiance to the same
and to the governments established
and to the governments established
in the United States
in the United States
and in this state
and in this state
under the authority of the people.
under the authority of the people.
I do further solemnly swear
I do further solemnly swear
that I will faithfully,
that I will faithfully,
impartially,
impartially,
and justly perform
and justly perform
all the duties of the office
all the duties of the office
of police officer
of police officer
according to the best of my ability,
according to the best of my ability,
so help me God.
so help me God.
Do you want to take a whole photo of the whole department now? With everybody or no? Yeah.
Brad, hold on, Brad, Jess, because your badge is showing there.
Oh, man, it's got a little, good eye.
Let's go again. Catch your breath. Wait this long.
Any more photos?
Just, you guys want to go back?
I got you got it for black.
Not there yet.
Thank you.
Ron, you want to take a knee? Yeah, you're the guy. Jim and Ron. I know, Jim. I know. I don't know where I'm looking. Good.
Thank you. Let the jokes start rolling in, right?
Can we temporarily adjourn so that,
We can take recess.
yeah, let's take a momentary recess so we can have some cookies. Recording stopped. All right, we are returning back from our brief recess. And next on the agenda is a little presentation from our Open Space Committee Chairman, Mr. Boswellian.
Thanks, Mayor. Welcome to the newly composed Township Committee. I'm Joe Basralian. I live on Fairfax Terrace. Before I start in the capacity as a chair of the Open Space Committee, I just wanted to reflect, they're not here anymore. Was that the most wonderful moment, the two women accepting, getting their badges? I mean, that was very, very touching and important, and it was great. And congratulations, Mr. King, as well. Welcome. This is a very short presentation on the Township Committee's activities of 2021, but I'd first like to point out the Township Committee, the Open Space Committee. The Open Space Committee is actually called the Open Space Advisory Committee. We advise. The heavy lifting has always been done by the members of the Township Committee, by the administrator, by the engineer, with some deft touches from the clerk as well. So while the Township Committee does advising and has great people on it, we're grateful to all of the other input that we get and the leadership from the people in the front of this room. Secondly, we had a healthy, active Open Space Committee in 2021, thanks to the volunteers, thanks to the liaison, Mrs. Findaco, and we're really excited to have 4 new volunteers in the Open Space Committee in 2022. So we have a committee of 8 people in all, which is 6 members plus 2 alternates. So the fact that this many people are coming out to be interested and involved in open space is really exciting. Because in Chatham Township, we love our open spaces. Thousands of people use them, whether it's for just walking and hiking or recreation or picnicking at the colony pool. We know that open spaces are part of what makes Chatham Township extremely special, and we've been incredibly lucky and recognized from people moving in and living here, and are so grateful for that. So for a very brief bullet points on items that the Open Space Committee advised on in 2021, one, we're so happy that the township received the Morris County grant for $350,000 toward the potential permanent preservation of a parcel of land on Southern Boulevard, Block 4816, lots 121 and 122. Thanks to the work of the administrator, the township committee, as well as a member of a nonprofit. We believe that preserving that piece of land will be so fantastic because it's connected with other preserves, township land, federal land, county land. And it's when you can connect open space parcels, you can do so much more with them. You can enjoy them in so many more ways. Bullet point number 2 we advised on in 2021. We was advised in support, really, of the administration engineer's work to oversee the construction of a 0.7-mile trail on the Hillside Avenue property on township land, Hillside Avenue down toward River Road. We had created a figure-8 loop there, which some people were using, and a lot of volunteer hours went into it. But this cinder trail, professionally built and overseen by the township, is really so much better. So if anyone's listening, check it out. Go park. There's a parking spot and a kiosk, and you make a few loops of that cinder trail. You get really nice views over the valley and the Watchung Ridge. I was there for an exercise walk with my wife, my mother-in-law, my dog, and so it's a great place now. There was a little bit of trouble in the beginning managing the water flows off of Fairmount Avenue, but that's really getting under control now. Bullet point number 3, the Open Space Committee did some advising on this, but as you all know, the township has recently just won a $120,000 planning grant from Morris County to plan a trail connection from Lewanika Brook Reservation at Green Village Road through the woods and wetlands to Nash Field. It's phenomenal to win these planning grants because it really takes a lot of money to plan a trail correctly. The Open Space Committee's advice is we want connectivity, we want trails. Extending trails is great for everybody. Our best advice is that we have to proceed very carefully and judiciously because there's a lot of really important wetland habitat there, diverse plants which are in decreasing supply in our area. So we really want that planning process to be done with all the rigor that we would expect the Chatham Township would do it with. And final bullet point, the Open Space Committee advised on the creation of a new trail on Shunpike, next to Shunpike Fields, a 0.4-mile trail, as well as the construction on different volunteer projects and boardwalks. But again, when I keep saying that the Open Space Committee advised, and we all get together, we had meetings, and there's a lot of great people on the committee, we really just want to express gratitude to the town for all that we love our open spaces for so many reasons, and to all the gratitude to the leadership who are implementing our advice, or telling us that maybe that's not the best advice for now. So and for 2022, the look ahead. Well, I really can't look ahead just yet because it's just the very beginning of the year, and we have 4 new members of the committee, and the mayor is a liaison to the Open Space Committee. So once we meet and get advice and get thoughts together, then I'll be able to come back and apprise public on that. So I hope I kept it short. I think the message is all positive, rah-rah, and thanks for everything to everybody.
Wonderful.
Anything else I can do while standing here?
Well, I just want to thank you and the committee. You guys have done an amazing job. And Joe with his team of scouts also is just supplementing all that with other trails, the trail work you did on Green Village Road. Is it conservation?
Green Village Conservation Trail, but
yes.
Yeah,
which is a beautiful site also. So, yeah, you guys have done a great job. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Mrs. Ewald. You came out and walked with my daughter on her Eagle project to make sure that it made sense, and you were so supportive, and as did you, Ms. Finacco, and as all of us would if asked. So thanks very much for that.
I did want to ask you a question. I remember the planning board, you had done an open space presentation for the open space elements. And there are some components, there's a resolution that kind of is talking about the rec components. I can't recall, it's been a while since I read the whole thing. Do you think the open space element of the master plan adequately addresses recreational priorities?
So the open space element of the master plan doesn't do a deep dive study on exactly how many active recreation, you're talking about active recreation fields?
Recreation and prioritization of where, resources are spent, that kind of thing.
So
I can't recall.
We did find that we're really blessed by having more than the sort of national guidance amounts of active recreation that a town should have. But that guidance is so general that really it just basically defers to the municipality. How much recreational space does the town want? So we're in a very healthy, positive position. There is the resolution up later today, which are you referring to the resolution up later today, or are you? sucking?
Yeah, well, that's, yeah.
Okay,
that's what I was
so yes, I
In
mean,
terms of planning, I couldn't recall if the open space element had captured some of that planning in it for recreation.
so, yes, I mean, basically, the open space element says we're in a great position, and we want to just keep being in this great position. In terms of the open space fund, the open space, what's not called the open space reserve, it is by ordinance in 2005, 2005-30, the open space reserve can, in my opinion, should be used for upgrades and improvements, and basically improving the quality of life for everybody as it pertains to open space. I know that almost all towns do use some of their open space reserves for important improvements, because what do people in the town want to see? They do want natural areas, and they do want the basic amenities, but they also really appreciate improvements, and they know that they'll continue to support the 2 cent or whatever open space tax is if they can see tangible improvements coming forth. So if we use some of that open space reserve for good improvements, and we still have a balance left for when we really need to acquire new properties, I think that's a healthy balance. And basically, I think it could maybe be almost, basically it's what, when people voted on the ballot measure back in 2004, and the ordinance was written in 2005, that's exactly what they voted for. I think I have it in front of me. Township, that reserve would be used for the acquisition of land, easements and development rights in land within the township, including use for active and passive recreation, the development and maintenance of municipal properties. And so, yeah, I think it's a healthy use.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Wonderful.
Okay, anyone else?
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
I just have one question for you, because you really answered all of my other questions. In the 2010 open space portion of the master plan, it really did a comparison between Chatham Borough and Chatham Township in some ways as to seeing us as two linked communities, and how much we provided in terms of open space and recreation options. And then the upgrade, the update in 2020, rather, the one that's current, 2020, sort of dropped that element. Can you speak to that a little bit, please?
Yeah, so, yes. I think we detected a little bit of a miscalculation in 2010, which meant that we shouldn't have made too much of those differences. And it was really hard when I came into the tail end of that process. So when we really dug into exactly which parcels were being counted as active and passive, it wasn't clear. Was, for example, take Shepherd College Park. Like, was just the active ball fields counted as recreation, or was it the whole parcel of land, which is like 2-3 times the size of just the ball fields? So I thought the 2010 element made a little bit more of those differentials than I think that the data really supported. So that's why some of that got glossed out, and we just tried to make the most mathematically correct comments we could without delving too much into who's got exactly more rec space and stuff.
Yeah.
So that's why we lost some of the detail.
That makes sense. And then, do you think that our Open Space Advisory Committee would be capable of helping or guiding or doing what the planning board asked if they wanted to, if they wanted to update again? So for, let's say, a 22 update or a 2023, what do you think about the capacity of the advisory committee for that?
Oh, we definitely have the capacity. If the township committee said, please go ahead and do this extra study, we definitely have the capacity for that. We've got people of all kinds of great skill levels and all kinds of willingness to volunteer. So whatever you ask for us, we'll do our best to provide good data and information and study, and we'll provide the reports and advice that we hope you're looking for.
I truly appreciate your volunteerism. I really do. It's you volunteer in this community in so many capacities, Joe, and thank you.
That's very kind. I'm one of
I have
many.
to second that, because
Thanks, Mary.
You're an
seriously,
exceptional person.
Thanks, Mary.
Among many exceptional.
Well, it's very kind.
Right.
And we would think the highest of all of you
and
as well.
one thing that I know, because we do have that resolution on the agenda regarding the open space, I thought you were the best person, we have been emailing back and forth on the best uses for money to improve our current open spaces. And I thought you came up with some fantastic ideas that I could not have thought of.
And there's even more ideas out there.
Right,
So
I'm
I don't
really
envy
excited to move forward with that. I think it'll be wonderful for the town, and I don't see how anybody could possibly not be excited about improving, our playgrounds, our fields, everything, so.
Yeah, thanks for that
Thank
vision
you,
and everything.
I really
everyone.
appreciate it.
Thanks all of you.
All right, now on to the reports. Committeewoman Ewald, would you like to provide a report?
Yeah, it's been pretty busy. So the Senior Center has a full schedule of programs. I hope everybody tries to take advantage of what they're offering. I mean, it's really amazing what they're doing. They have everything from knitting, line dancing, bridge, workshops, writing workshops, exercise programs. They have decided to postpone some of their larger programs and gatherings until the Omicron surge is over. Most of the classes are in person, although they still have online options for support groups and writing classes. Of special interest, they just received funding from Morris County Department of Aging to offer online evidence-based program from the University of North Carolina called Eat Smart, Move More, Weigh Less. You can go on the Township website and look at the Senior Center newsletter for more specific information. They are also providing space again this year for the AARP Free Tax Aid Prep Program. They will be at the Senior Center on Fridays from 9:30 to 3 starting February 4th. You do have to sign up through AARP, so I hope our seniors will take advantage of that. The Madison Chatham Coalition is funded by grants which are used for alcohol and marijuana use prevention targeted at youth age 12 to 17. To support their funding, they do need to do environmental surveys, and they're in the process of collecting information from adults in the community. So the short anonymous survey focuses on perception of risk and ease of access. You can get more information at MadisonChathamCoalition.org, or you could find the links on our Chatham Township website. The Municipal Alliance Committee of the Chathams, January 25th at 1 p.m. there's a parenting webinar on how to talk with your kids about drug use in popular media. January 26th is a virtual mental health awareness training session on youth mental health first aid. The January 26th presentation is from 9 to 4 and is open to all New Jersey residents. If you go to chathammac@gmail.com, if you email them, they'll send you the links to sign up. The Mayor's Wellness Committee held a Conversation of Your Life program in November, which received good feedback, so they're looking to run another session closer to April. Our Communications Committee will be meeting on January 31st, so if anybody has suggestions on how we could better communicate, please let us know. And our Finance Committee has not met this year, but I expect we'll meet soon as we're heading into budget season. And we'll expect budget intro, is that usually the end of February, budget intro meeting? Yeah. And I think, and the other thing is we have gotten final guidance on the use of Recovery Act funds. So I hope we can start working with the administration and the community to map out our priorities for those funds. I'm all set.
All right. Committeewoman Fondaco?
Yes. Well, the Environmental Commission had its first meeting with the prior year members, some of its new members, the new chairperson, and 3 visitors. They are currently working on presenting an ordinance for water preservation, and that will be coming to the Township Committee. They are also looking into a possible grant for the control of invasive species. I also received some correspondence from residents who were really disappointed and disheartened that Maureen Kelly wasn't reappointed to the commission as someone who single-handedly achieved sustainable silver status for the first time in Chatham Township. She has been an effective leader and dedicated to our community for 6 years on the Environmental Commission and will be surely missed. And that's it. I don't have any other.
Committeewoman Lois?
Okay. Well, as Mrs. Ewald said, the Communications Committee will be meeting on the 31st, and we have not set a meeting yet for our Finance Committee, but that will be shortly, I'm sure. We have a colony pool ordinance coming up tonight, and that will allow us to start the enrollment period in Colony Pool, so that we will be meeting again before February with the Colony Pool Committee and the what is and the Colony Pool. What was my other committee? Colony Pool, and I think that's it. So yeah, so the well, we talked about finance and communication. I'm sorry. So it's the Colony Pool Committee, and the ordinance will allow us to set the fees, but also the resolution going in tonight will give us our last member to the Colony Pool Committee. So I'm sorry, that's what I was searching for. So we will be full after tonight, which is good, and we've had trouble being full in the past for the Colony Pool Committee. So to be full at this point is very good. And then our recreation meets on the 8th.
All right, so I guess we can move over to the public hearing of citizens. Oh, I'm sorry, okay. Did you have anything to report?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I wanted to let the Township Committee know, as well as the public, that there is a break in the water line coming into the municipal building. And that break, the line will have to be replaced, so the municipal building will be closed on Monday, January 24th, so that this line can be replaced. The water to the building has to be shut off, so we will not be able to run the boiler, and there will be no water that would be coming into the building for the bathroom. So this is a repair. If you go out, you can hear the water running in the parking lot, and you can see the water bubbling up through a crack in the driveway. But it just needs to be fixed, and we will get it done. And that's my report. So we'll be putting this out on our website and other social media platforms tomorrow morning.
Do any other professionals have anything to report? Greg, Peter, John?
Nothing to report, man.
Okay, Greg.
Just real quick, a reminder to residents that the deadline to renew their dog licenses is January 31st for renewals. After that, there's a $5 late fee. We have had about 190 people already have their dogs renewed, and we've had several cats renewed. I have a couple still pending where I need to contact the residents for additional information, and I'd like to thank everyone who has renewed. But yeah, just a reminder, if you want to avoid the late fee, now's the time to renew those licenses.
Any possibility that's going to get automated one of these days?
I would love that. That's something where we'd have to get set up for online payments in order to do that, but it's something that I'll work with the CFO to see if we can do that at some point.
Yeah, there's 2 software programs we're looking at for next year.
Great. All right, so let's move to the public hearing of citizens. This is an opportunity for any member of the public to be heard about any issues that are not topics scheduled for public hearings tonight. Our public hearing of citizens is guided by the Governor of New Jersey's executive orders. At this time, the committee room is open to the public, and we look forward to having you join us. Additionally, this meeting is being made available for public participation remotely. If you are watching cable TV on Comcast Channel 29 or Fios Channel 26, you can participate in the public comment section of this meeting by dialing the phone numbers which are listed on the agenda and which are shown on your TV screen. Please dial *9 to raise your hand. If you're watching via Zoom, you may speak during the public comment session by following the Zoom instructions to raise your hand. Whether in person or online, when you are recognized to speak, please say your name, spell your last name, and give your street number. As a reminder, all public comments will be limited to 5 minutes. Rather than use any of your time answering questions, we will wait until you finish speaking before responding. Each member of the public will be limited to 1 comment during the public comment period. Written comments submitted to the Township Clerk before 3 p.m. today will be read during the public comment sessions. Written comments are subject to the same guidelines as oral comments. Duplicative written comments may be summarized rather than read in full, according to guidelines issued by the New Jersey Division of Local Government Services. Greg, are there any written comments?
No.
All right, let's start with individuals here in person. Hello.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. My name is Karen Swartz. That's S-W-A-R-T-Z. I'm at 13 Heritage Drive at this time. The purpose of my coming before you today is to congratulate the leadership of our police department, Chief Miller, and the leadership of Chatham Township for the 2 new officers that are sworn in this evening. It is so important that we have women on our police force, but I also know the importance of choosing the right people for the job as opposed to just checking the box saying, okay, we've got some women on the force now. It has been a long, arduous procedure. I know, Chief Miller, we've been talking about it in my tenure on the Public Service Subcommittee, Public Safety rather. And the idea of making sure we go through a careful vetting process and finding the right people for the job for Chatham Township, which is a unique and fabulous community. So I look forward to hearing of the success of these 2 fabulous young ladies, and I wish them all the success in the world. My optimism is really beyond words for them as well as for the future of our police department. Chief Miller, thanks for all you do to keep this community safe. Thanks to all of the folks on your department, and that's all. Good luck for 2022, everybody, and I look forward to watching you on television. Bye for now.
Thank you, Karen.
Good evening. Phil Uncle, J Road. Let me start by echoing Ms. Schwartz's comments that I was very heartened to see 2 women join our police force. 2 obviously very qualified and talented women. A good time, an exciting change in our police department. On the second topic, I want to urge this committee to continue the diversity, small business, and affordable housing committees that were established last year and allowed to lapse, it appears. Or, at a minimum, to hear from those citizen committees about what they've been up to for over a year, in much the same way, or for a year, in much the same way as Mr. Brazilian just spoke about the Open Space Committee. At the most recent reorganization meeting, the new majority, you all did not address the advisory committee topic, and I see tonight's draft agenda doesn't include anything about the fate of these committees. Advisory committees are a well-established tool for the Township Committee to receive community insights and inputs. Advisory committees are used by all levels of government in situations where those advisory committees have a particular technical or community insight. You all are volunteers and can't be expected to have the time or resources to dive deeply on your own in all of the important topics facing the community. Advisory committee members have the time and expertise to support with information, for example, on how neighboring communities address affordable housing mandates, or diversity challenges, or small business development, as they do today with open space, colony pool, and other topics. Advisory committees help bring the community together. Our annual elections are very effective at showing where we differ, sometimes very bitterly. Yet those elections obscure where we agree on key topics like open space and the value of colony pool as a community resource. By working together to find solutions, we can build a healthier civic community. Advisory committees are useful in growing a more engaged community. We count on volunteers to staff our Chatham Township Committee. That's you all. We benefit as a community when candidates for the committee already have experience working on key topics facing the community. And advisory committees help in developing our local civic talent. Now, I know that some don't believe we need more government, so oppose additional committees. Others have argued that the proposed advisory committees address topics more suited to purely private groups. Cynics would argue the proposed advisory committees are just a way to reward loyalists, but I disagree. On the first point, these are purely advisory committees without specific legislative or other power. It's up to the Chatham Township Committee to make any final decisions. As to the second point, topics like affordable housing, business development, and diversity intersect with our township government on a range of levels. It is precisely their connection to the Township Committee that makes them relevant and able to support good policy choices. And finally, it's really up to the Township Committee as a body to determine how best to staff the advisory committees and how to address their recommendations. The Township Committee, you all are elected to make key policy decisions on behalf of our community. This is what we elect you to do. I say let's give them the tools, let's give you the tools, information, and support to make these decisions with as many options and community voices as we can, including through the diversity, small business, and affordable housing committees, advisory committees. Finally, on my third topic, I couldn't let the opportunity pass not to raise again a topic that was raised earlier by Mrs. Ewald. I noticed that our new township attorney, Mr. King, is co-chair of the Morris County Republican Party. He personally and aggressively inserted himself into local Chatham politics. The bylaws of this community, of this organization, call for RFQs for professional services. And this committee so far hasn't published, or at least I haven't seen, any information about the process and the other candidates for this very important and frankly very expensive position. That's why I say today's choice of Mr. King as a township attorney sends the worst possible and the most partisan message to our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Uncle. Regarding the three committees, essentially they were created last year by resolution, meaning that they were automatically dissolved at the end of the year, as all resolutions do. We are committed to the ideals of diversity and sharing knowledge of affordable housing and encouraging businesses in our township. We are researching the best strategy on how to form these committees so that they are by ordinance. Tonight we have our new legal strategy that's on our agenda that we intend to reach out to legal specialists in these areas to help formulate the best structure of these committees. And we will keep you posted. Next.
Good evening. My name is Genevieve Castellino at 104 Ormond Road. I am the person you disconnected from speaking at the last meeting. I checked. We still live in a democracy where citizens enjoy the right to speak freely without being silenced by their town's mayor because you have a problem with what I said. What I was saying before you censored me is this. The township is blessed to have so many volunteers who work tirelessly to improve our community. In our schools, our sports, our library, the Great Swamp, and so much more. These unpaid volunteers are one of the important pillars on which this community stands. Among these volunteers are women like Stacey Ewald, Celeste Fondaco, Maureen Kelly, Kathy Abbott, and Jessica Romeo. I was enraged at the rude interruptions and dismissive manner in which you treated them at the last meeting. These women have done more for this community in the past decades than you've done as politicians in the Township Committee. I also want to remind you that you, as residents and property owners, personally benefit from the work that they've done. I also want to remind you that you have been in these committee meetings ranting about affordable housing all throughout 2019 and 2020. Your political opponents, both your fellow Republicans and Democratic Party representatives, respected your right to speak, even though there were times when you were clearly grandstanding and making verifiably false and accusatory statements. Democracy works when everyone agrees to the rules and plays by it. What you have done is use the rules of public comment to fulfill and benefit your political aspirations and then change them when you won. There is still time, and I hope you choose a less combative and hypocritical course. Back in 2017, I came before this committee and very politely requested that we hold a more respectful debate. I was naive about township politics then. What I have learned since then is that township politics has been a combination of toxicity and bullying for years. For years before I started paying attention. Demonizing and vilifying political opponents is par for the course and that is not going to change anytime soon. I hope that township residents start paying more attention to what happens in these meetings and less on the hysteria and rhetoric at election time. Finally, thank you, Stacy and Celeste, for the work you've done for decades and continue to do for this community, despite the way you're treated here, as we've seen even today. While the committeeman, Mark Lewis, so graciously, lauded the open space, Mr. Bazralian. Considering the news that a group is acquiring Noe and maintaining it as a swim club, I want to take this opportunity to thank you for your efforts on renegotiating the affordable housing site to a community-preferred site and securing the judgment of compliance so that we don't have to worry about builder's remedy impacting the density of development in the township. Again, thank you, Celeste, and thank you, Stacy, and I look forward to seeing what more you can do for this community while not being treated with much respect. Thanks.
And I'd like to just thank the speaker for commending me, for commending the volunteers. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Except Stacey Ewald and Celeste Fagato. Thank you.
Look, we appreciate all input from residents. We just ask that you be respectful in doing so. We're all volunteers. I'm speaking, ma'am.
Ma'am, you cut me off.
We are all volunteers here. We've devoted countless hours of our time, of our money. I know I've spent thousands. And you may not always agree, and that's totally your right. We just asked at the public comment section that we be respectful. It's very clear that you're triggered by our appointment up here, but I would just ask we would be respectful.
To be respectful,
All right, this is inappropriate. No, this is inappropriate. This is inappropriate.
Thank you.
Next.
Kathy Abbott, Wynwood Road. Very respectfully, I have two comments. One is that the prior speaker was cut off before her 5 minutes was finished. And our freedom of speech coming from the Constitution, our rights for freedom of speech say that you're allowed to speak in opposition with and still have the right to speak. So she should not have been cut off before her 5 minutes were over. That's just plain and simple. Second thing is that just to give a historical perspective, yes, some people are, I among them, and the other speakers are upset at the way the attorney was selected, but I can tell you that it sounds like what you're saying is that the RFQ process was put in only in recent years in the bylaws for selection of professionals, and that the reason that you didn't use that process was because it hadn't been used historically. But I was present, I think I was in my first year of service on the Township Committee in 2012, may have been 2013, when Albert Cruz, the past Township Attorney, was chosen, and we were all informed that the prior attorney was retiring, and we were informed of the process, where there was a subcommittee that selected at least 3 firms for us, 3 firms. There was more than one representative of some of the firms. And we did that in executive session, but all 5 township committee members participated. And so there was so much secrecy going on in December when I was still on the committee and should have been informed that we were changing the attorney. So there was absolutely a secrecy and a hidden agenda of historic proportions in choosing the current township attorney. And there was no reason for it. You could have brought in, did the full RFP, and it should have, according to the bylaws. So this is unprecedented, the way you snuck in the township attorney. I'm not saying anything personal against him, although I didn't like the way he participated in your political campaign, Mrs. Felice and Mr. Hamilton, who's not listening. But that's all. It's not normal, and no one can say this is consistent with anything that's ever been done in the town before, the way the township attorney was chosen, and it has a bearing on how so many things can go forward, and especially appointments or any other appointments or goings-on that might come from the planning board where Mr. Lois has personal financial interests. So we have to watch for self-dealing amongst all township committee members, and especially right now.
Can I address that?
Yes, Mr. King.
With regard to the RFQ process, you do that, the municipality should do that.
Do you have your microphone on?
I'm sorry. The municipality should have done that, the prior administration should have done that in October, have them come back in November. So I don't know how.
Mr. King, there's a switch on there. I'm sorry, it's on the black box. It goes from mute to on, and it's very confusing. We're working on upgrading this.
So
to make it acceptable.
the RFQ process should have been done by the prior administration. They just simply dropped the ball, and they didn't do it. So I don't know how.
Yeah,
Group.
I mean, well,
officials could
Right, so
are we, go ahead.
I would just like to say, just to make this clear to people that are, every single year, the attorney expires, okay? It's a one-year appointment of the township attorney. Now, it just so happens every single year that the township has decided to reappoint, for the last decade or so, reappoint the same person. This year, we did not reappoint the same person. And the only way to run an RFQ process, the way that you would put it out and gather up many, many resumes would be to have it start in September or October or November. And that RFQ would be required every year because the attorneys expire every year. So the point is that the previous mayor and the previous majority, of which our last speaker was a part, should have began that RFQ process in September or October or November, according to the bylaws. And then the new attorney could have been in place. And in fact, had they even wanted to replace the same exact attorney and follow the bylaws RFQ process to replace the same exact attorney with our same exact attorney, so in other words, keeping our attorney from year to year, they would have had to run that RFQ, and they should have done it earlier. They put the new majority in a position where we had to either keep a generalist who decided that they wanted to remain, to keep our legal strategy as a generalist, or we could try something different. And we've decided to do something different because of the results that we've had in the past that we feel, the current majority feels could be better.
Okay, since I've been obliquely referenced numerous times, I'd like to respond.
Just
to be clear, nobody on this committee requested a change of a lawyer or requested to implement an RFQ process for a lawyer, mostly because we were in the middle of litigation. We had Silverman breathing down our necks, and we were trying to close on the Charlie Brown site. So nobody on the committee certainly did not talk to me about replacing the attorney. The other reason, and you both know full well because you disputed this at every single turn, it would have been inappropriate in October, in the midst of a contentious election that would have swayed the majority one way or the other, to put in an RFQ process knowing full well that we had the majority votes at the time, and you would have been livid had we done that.
Well, you wouldn't be able to.
We agree that there should have been an RFQ process, and there wasn't. And we also agree that it would be inappropriate to have an RFQ process. You're saying it would be inappropriate to have the RFQ process when you had the majority and you could make that decision. And we're saying that the RFQ process, we basically shorthanded it and did the best one that we could in the time we had. So we agree on that the RFQ process is inappropriate. I agree.
I don't understand what you're saying. You used the RFQ for all the other attorneys, so you could have used it for this attorney and had a 90-day extension, period, end story.
Okay.
Use the same process you used for everybody else.
So moving on.
All right, let's move on. Is there anybody on Zoom?
Yes. First up is Mike Kelly. Mike, if you can unmute.
Yes, good evening. This is Mike Kelly, Mountain Avenue. Thank you very much. couple of questions and going over the agenda for tonight's meeting. There were 5 separate items on the consent agenda that I had questions about. 3 of those have been pulled off the consent agenda by Committeewoman Ewald, thank you very much. And one of them has been tabled by the mayor, thank you very much. But let me go through the questions because I assume that all of them, well, 4 out of 5 will be addressed tonight, and that the 5th will be addressed eventually. So if I could ask the questions that I want to ask. And if people could, if you would just take some notes on this and so that you could answer them when we do get to those resolutions, I would appreciate it. Resolution 49, which is the one that was tabled, developer's agreement with Sterling Properties. If there could be a capsule explanation of that when the time comes, that would be much appreciated. Resolution 50, authorizing litigation settlement. Again, there's no details and no backup documentation with the agenda, so a explanation of that would certainly be appreciated. Resolution 51, which is authorizing a change in the legal strategy. Again, what struck me on that was the one whereas, which specifically says that it's expected to drive down costs. I certainly would welcome an explanation of the strategy, the strategic thinking on that, because if I understood correctly from the reorganization meeting, the intent here is to create 2 new positions, a litigation attorney and a affordable housing attorney, in addition to the township attorney. So with 3 positions, I'd appreciate some more information on the expected to drive down costs portion of that strategy. Resolution 52, appointing the township attorney, which has already taken place, but I guess I'd like an explanation. My understanding from the prior reorganization meeting that was tabled for 30 days to allow a more complete search, and now here it is 14 days later and it's been acted upon. So any explanation of what actually did take place during these 14 days would be appreciated. Also, the resolution merely says that the contract will be somewhere between $17,500 and $150,000. Could you please explain what the actual retainer is for our township attorney, and how does that compare to our previous township attorney? And in addition to the retainer, I understand that it's normal to have an hourly rate when the township attorney does work over and above the retainer. Could we please have the hourly rate for our new township attorney, and how does that compare to the hourly rate of our previous township attorney? And thirdly, if the retainer is not less than the retainer for our previous township attorney, could you please address why not? Because it certainly seems like the job is being divided among 3 people. Our previous township attorney handled our affordable housing, he handled our litigation, and he handled our township attorney business. So if we are diminishing the responsibilities for the township attorney, I guess I'd like to hear the logic on if the retainer is also reduced, that certainly would make sense and would be great. If it hasn't been reduced, I'd like an explanation why. And the 5th resolution on the consent agenda that really needs an explanation is the resolution 53, which seems to specify that the open space tax can be used to improve parks and open space. And I don't understand why the need to adopt that resolution when the state already provides that that's the case. And our 1999 petition that led to the creation of the open space tax specifically said that it could be spent not just for acquiring open space, but also for improving parks and open space. So I don't understand the rationale behind that. And I guess in a general overview comment about the consent agenda, if you find yourself as a township committee asking questions of the professional staff, to clearly understand what these items are on the consent agenda, could you please take them off the consent agenda and address them individually, and in the process of a public meeting, explain, at least in a capsule form, the same explanation that the professional staff gives you?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Kelly. That was a lot. Let's start with the attorney. Did you want to take care?
So my fees are the same as the prior attorneys with retainer and any other work. With regard to the other work, I will not be doing that work, so I should be within that retainer amount unless there's some smaller litigation that can be done in-house without going out to a professional in tax. If there's a tax issue, if I can do it at a cheaper time, or if I can just do it within that retainer, I would do that. Prior, the other attorney did all the tax appeals, did affordable housing, I guess did litigation. They were the prosecutor. Those jobs have been requested for other attorneys to do those. And in doing that, I'm certainly not going to be charging for that because that is going to be done by other attorneys. I'll oversee that, but that's part of the retainer. In the past, when you break it up, you have someone looking to make sure that what these other attorneys are doing are within guidelines, that they're not veering off because there's no one prior really looking over what the other attorney was doing. That's my understanding. So this way, it's almost like I'm the law director, the coach, and you have all these other attorneys. We're going to do that legal work and pay for that. I don't get paid for that. So
The way I'm sorry to interrupt you, but the way I kind of see it is like you're our in-house counsel, basically. In-house counsel, and everything else is outsourced where you will, help us advise. And what I've seen time and time again is when you take things out and there's competition. Now, their attorneys are much more accountable for their hours because they're no longer all under one roof. They're much more watching what they're billing for. So I am confident that it will not be a massive increase, as was indicated. Is there any?
If you,
oh wait, go ahead.
I just have something. Mr. Kelly also asked about the open space tax and park upgrades resolution, and he asked why specifically we're having a resolution when it's already in the ordinance. Mr. Kelly's very well informed. He's exactly right. The referendum, the ordinance, everything was anticipates upgrades, improvements, and maintenance from our open space tax. We don't have a history of doing upgrades, improvements, or maintenance from our open space tax. So we passed this resolution to make it extraordinarily clear to everyone that we are not in any way minimizing, diminishing, reducing, or negatively impacting our open space. And in fact, what we are doing is adding to it, making it more useful, and appropriately giving the taxpayers what they voted for and what is in our ordinances. So the purpose of this resolution is to be as crystal clear, as loud as we can be, and to not have accusations come out in our very contentious election cycles that somehow we have raided or in any other way diminished our open space or provided in some sort of an outlet or something like this. In fact, what we're doing is we're providing a great source of funds and a great use of those funds.
Great. All right. Let's move on to the next. Anybody on Zoom?
Yes. Next is Evan Skinner.
Good evening. This is Evan Skinner. I'm on Hilltop Terrace. My question concerns the decision to end the second comment section of the meeting, which has been historical for quite a while. And I'm curious if you have considered or planned to have announced office hours when constituents might be able to speak with you personally, since they've been, the opportunity to do so at these meetings has been cut in half.
Okay, is there anything else?
Is that it?
That's it.
All right, well, there's one general public comment section at our meeting. There's also a public comment section every time we introduce and vote on a new ordinance specific to that ordinance. We also all have email addresses. I would be happy to meet with anybody at any time if you want to sit down and chat. I can have open office hours if you want. It doesn't matter to me. If you just shoot me an email and want to schedule a time to talk, I'm fine with that as well. Basically, we decided, the entire committee decided unanimously, it was one of the few unanimous votes that we had, to eliminate the last public comment section because it was just dragging on the meetings. But we are no way are trying to prevent anybody from communicating with us at any time. So, yeah.
I just want to, just reiterate and echo that comment, which is that was a unanimous decision because it is in the best interest of the township, it's in the best interest of the residents, it's in the best use of time and our attention. And I want to applaud everybody for the lack of division in that vote because that was unanimous.
I would, just to say one thing, because that was a small part of the entire bylaws, and I supported the entire bylaws, that's why I voted for that. Based on the feedback I've received and then looking at how it actually plays out, people don't have an opportunity to comment. I would support bringing back the public hearing, but maybe giving people a minute during the second public hearing. This way, if we have a list of resolutions, if there's discussions that took place and they feel like they want to comment at that point, people usually don't come up for more than like 30 seconds at the end of the meeting. So we can do this on a trial, see how it goes, but I would support bringing that back in some reduced format.
Okay, we can take it under advisement.
And Mark even had the opportunity when he was speaking to come back once or twice when he was speaking before he was elected.
Yeah.
And he took advantage of it.
Well,
it's not about taking
absolutely true
advantage.
that I talked a second time once, and the only thing that I said was we really need to follow Robert's Rules of Order. And everyone who's in the listening, if you're listening to those meetings, we really needed to follow Robert's rules. And if you listen to me in my very first meeting here and the meeting, I've also referenced Robert's rules. I really think that I took an oath to abide by the bylaws. We follow Robert's Rules of Order. And that is very important to decorum here. And that's why I stood up for a second time and only said we need to follow Robert's Rule of Order. Otherwise, this is not going to work. So that is the second comment that I made. It's true.
All right, is there anybody else on Zoom?
Yes. Next up is Jen McNally.
Hi, how are you? Jen McNally, 100 Main Avenue. And thank you so much for having this open time to talk. There have been a lot of public comments this evening, a lot of interesting exchanges. I just had trouble, it's hard to follow sometimes on Zoom, about the town attorney. If you could please clarify in 1 or 2 word terms, to keep this short in the interest of time, is the retainer for the township attorney the same, less, or more than the previous attorney in a simple answer?
Same.
Same. That's great to know. Thank you very much. There's another comment that was made a few minutes ago about the quote-unquote, it's not a massive increase, but there will be an increase in the lawyer fees. Taxpayer, everyone's concerned about rising costs. Everyone's here around keeping costs down. So, not a massive increase. A massive increase for some people could be $100 a year. A massive increase could be $1,000 a year for someone else. So if we could maybe clarify what the not a massive increase will be with the lawyer fees, that would be wonderful. That's my second question. So we can answer that now, or I'll let one come back to that.
Just finish, yeah.
Okay. So, so the taxpayer, I think that's pretty vague to hear from everybody who ran transparency. And my third question is, when you look at the volunteer committees that were formed last year, which I know some people objected to, some people wanted, there were 3 committees made of residents, of volunteers. We had a small business committee, and there are tons of small businesses that may not have storefronts in the township, but there are people running businesses from their homes or businesses all around town that may not be seen in the public eye, but there are people running tons of small businesses. And it was a pretty exciting thing, I know, for some people to get on that committee. We have a multicultural diversity committee, and we have an affordable housing committee. And what I find is really interesting, if you look at the biographies of the people on the affordable housing committee, is that they're a very committed group of people who work in the real estate business, who are familiar with real estate finance, who are familiar with construction and development. And their time that they volunteer for these committees is really priceless. You can't put a price on what they probably charge a customer for their consulting fees. So we've got 3 volunteer committees made of people who are really committed to the township. So now, the comment was made earlier that we're now going to have legal specialists for citizen volunteer committees. Now, we're trying to keep costs down here. Everybody says, you know, we got to keep our taxes down. We need to bring in legal specialists to deal with our citizen volunteer committees. So that was concerning. And my last question is that for Ashley, you made a comment in the beginning of the public comments this evening. I think after the first comment had ended, you know, and I understand we appreciate everyone's a volunteer here. I volunteer in the community in a variety of capacities. It's great that everybody here in Chatham Township seems to volunteer in one way or another. So your time, it is appreciated for everybody who volunteers. You do put a lot of hours, and it's what makes Chatham Township great. You made a comment in the beginning of the comment section towards the end of the first one, that you're all here, and you spend hours of your time, I think I had written down, you spend hours of your time on money, thousands of dollars. And if we could maybe discuss that comment as well, amongst the other replies in those 4 questions that I had.
Is that it, Jim?
I think that's it, yeah.
All right, the first was the attorneys. I think you're very misinformed there. I never said that this could cost more. I actually said I don't believe it will cost anything more than what we've been paying, because I believe when you have competitive attorneys that are accountable to another attorney, they won't be padding up hours. The next, that was the first, regarding, she wanted me to speak about how I've spent a lot of hours volunteering. Well, just the amount of time that we've spent here, and I think I said thousands of dollars, yes, well, someone has to stay and watch my kids while I'm here when my husband's out working. So I spend a lot of money with babysitters. Money spent in many ways like that. That's kind of what I was insinuating. What was the other issue? I think it was about the legal structure.
Yeah.
The volunteer committees. We already pretty much addressed that. Essentially, we're going to, we're still looking into how to best form these committees. Of course, we appreciate the work of our volunteers. There's no question about that. It's more of we're trying to figure out how to best design the committees so that they can last long term in a form of an ordinance like the rest of our committees, and not have to deal with a temporary resolution year after year. Did you?
I don't know, Madam Mayor, if this is the appropriate time, but it seems like there's a lot of questions about the resolution that we haven't had a chance to discuss yet, because it was pulled out from the consent agenda, and normally there would have been an introduction to this resolution about the legal strategy. So I don't know if this is the appropriate time to do that, but I think a lot of questions will be answered once we do that.
That's fine.
Would you like to proceed? Okay.
Yes.
Why don't we just address it comprehensively rather than piecemeal? Or we're gonna do that resolution now altogether?
No.
We'll discuss it when we get to
He said he was going to answer some questions, basically, off of it.
Yeah, so I'll just,
quickly.
Yeah, just very quickly, the legal structure is going to change, and we're not going to have, and this is a brilliant legal idea from Mr. King, we are not going to have all of these attorneys on retainer necessarily. Where it is appropriate, yes, but where we have specialists, we will have lists of specialists that we can choose from and pull them in when we need them. They will be pre-qualified professionals, and our legal generalist, or in Mr. King's role, will be able to choose the one that's best, and then we'll supervise them. So you'll have an attorney watching an attorney do work, and that's going to create efficiencies. It's going to create efficiencies because we're going to deal with experts in specific concentrated fields. It's also going to create efficiencies because an attorney is watching another attorney work. And as if you worked with an attorney before, you know, a letter, how long did that take? A call, how long did that? I mean, there are ways of attorneys to be managed that produce better results at lower costs, and that's the idea.
Don't you
I
have to
agree.
pay that other attorney too?
Yes, but it's going to be at a smaller time frame, effectively. As Mark Hamilton and myself, we both worked in law firms. Him for way longer than me. But still, we both worked in law firms. We've seen how the process works, where you end up being, when there's a competitive situation, you're more accountable. And that's why corporations have chosen to have in-house counsels that use outsource attorneys for specialized issues that come up. And ultimately, that's the avenue that we thought would be best, where it's basically like Mr. King is our in-house counsel, will be helping us manage our outside specialists that will be coming from a pre-qualified list that we will be qualifying now that we've sent out the RFQs, and we'll be going from there. Mr. King, did you have anything to add to that?
No, well, with litigation, your legal cost is going to depend on the litigation. Next year, you could have no litigation, and your number will be far less than a year that you had a lot of litigation.
Right.
But the process is to bring in people off that list, as you said, and I'm just repeating it, and they'll be monitored. Before I've called out attorneys on bills, because as you said, there's certain red flags that I've seen, and they have to reduce it. They have to cut their bill. When you have one person doing that, no one's overseeing that person, and sometimes that can be a problem. Not always, but it's just a better way to monitor your legal bills, especially in a community that is worried about legal fees.
I totally agree, and that's what the experience that I've had. I know working in a law firm, I know Mark Hamilton and I had discussed this many times.
And just to be clear, our previous attorney was absolutely not performing all legal services that were being performed under the retainer, under the simple retainer. There was work beyond that, okay, to that firm. Certainly there was. So there's a lot of confusion, and I hope that clears up some of it, and maybe when we touch this resolution, I think actually we've done the whole resolution, with the exception of reading it. But reading it also makes it very clear.
Right.
And many other municipalities have chosen to go to this same exact legal strategy. And this legal strategy was also agreed to, I thought, unanimously in our last meeting.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to the next.
The next up is Stephanie Stewart.
Hi, good evening. Stephanie Stewart, 11 Mitchell Avenue. I'm afraid I'm going to harp on the topic as a township attorney. Just because, there is a precedent here for the use of RFQs and RFPs in requesting any kind of professional service. There's a resolution 2019, and I just did this on the fly, by the way, while you guys were talking. So this is by no means comprehensive. It's just an example of resolution 2019-64, RFQ for technology services. 2019-66, loan and field maintenance. 2019-67, concession services for the colony pool. Then in October 2021, there was an RFQ for the Board of Health attorney.
2021-110, again, an RFP for concession services at the Colony Pool. 2021-73, demolition or reconstruction at 490 River Road. And then 2022-19 is a resolution for the 90-day appointment of a municipal prosecutor and alternate to allow for an RFQ to be issued for those two positions. And those RFQs are part of Resolution 2244, which has several positions open, 4 of which are attorneys, the labor, conflict and litigation, affordable housing, tax appeal, and then also the prosecutor, as was mentioned in 2219. So, I know that you have a legal strategy that you'll be voting on and talking more about. I don't think that anyone has an issue with that. I think, again, it's the lack of transparency around the appointment of the township attorney when there's ample precedent for the use of an RFQ or RFP. And, barring missteps or, oversights from the previous administration, my question is, what's precluding you from, doing it the right way now? Or having done it the right way from the beginning. Given that the awarding of contracts, from in any kind of government, whether it's municipal or not, apparently it's supposed to be either fair and open or non-fair and open, and either way, it should be open, which doesn't seem to have been the case here. And then my other question is, it starts to sound a little bit scary about why you're paying an attorney to watch another attorney. If I go to my primary care physician and I then need to consult a specialist, I don't pay my primary care physician to watch over the advice that I get from the specialist. So I just want to make sure that we truly are keeping an eye on costs and making sure that we're not going overboard on that. I just wanted to hear from the Township Committee what the plan is to deliver on cost savings before the fact, not after the fact.
Are you done?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. We've discussed the change in legal strategy over and over and over again, so I think we're good there.
I just want to, in defense of our administrator, I have to say Mr. Hoffman has been amazing about checking bills across. I can't tell you how many times he said to me he's going to chase somebody down. I can't remember specifically if it was the attorney, but there's just been so many times that he and our CFO, Deb King, chase down detailed bills that don't make sense. They're very good about staying on top of that. So I do appreciate having a legal oversight, and I appreciate the strategy, and I like the strategy. But I don't, our administrator has been keeping an eye on stuff, so I don't want residents to worry that, there hasn't been oversight.
All right, is there anybody else?
Yes. Neil Shaw?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, Neil Shaw for Woodbine Drive. I've been listening to this discussion about the legal strategy. It's all a little vague to me since it's just a couple snippets here and there at the last 2 meetings. Nothing seems to be written down or really described with any type of specificity, and there hasn't been any type of open process. But I do have a question about one aspect of this. I'm an attorney myself. I check our bills before they go out to the client. The client doesn't get charged for me to prepare their bills. As I understand it now, my tax dollars are going to go to Mr. King to review another attorney's bills. That's what it sounded like. And apparently he will use his negotiating skills to make sure that those attorneys are fulfilling their ethical obligations to not be overcharging the township. So we're going to have 2 layers of fees there. I hope I'm not misunderstanding that, because that seems very concerning to me, that we're paying someone to do that. I mean, Mr. King is not a township employee, he's not on salary. So I'm not sure why the existing process, just for something like reviewing bills, cannot just continue as it did, instead of now incurring additional fees to monitor other third parties.
Is there anything else?
Is that it, sir?
No, that is it.
So that will be part of my retainer, and by me doing that, it will alleviate or take something off the plate of the administrator, so he does not have to be going through those bills. So there won't be an increase for me to review the bills to this town. It's going to be part of the retainer. So I don't get to charge any more money than that's in my retainer for that service.
It's a flat rate. Let's make this abundantly clear. It is one flat rate that is covered for review of everybody's contract, as well as your services to advising at our committee meetings. Those are not hourly.
That's correct.
Okay, just want to make that.
The only time that there would be any hourly rate is if there's something, a small matter that I'd have to go to court, a litigation. That's not covered under your retainer. It wasn't before, isn't now. That I don't envision, but if that happens, that would be the only time.
Okay. Let's make that abundantly clear now.
Can I just ask Mr. Hoffman, is there a difference between the resolution for Mr. King and the resolution in the past? And is there a difference in the way that the bills will be paid, or the way that the money is flowing, or taxpayer funds? And will Mr. King be escrowing or in any way touching taxpayer funds? Can you answer that? I think that's what our caller was. It seemed to me like those were his questions. He thought that there might be money going to Mr. King's firm that was taxpayer money.
I can't answer the specific parts of your question. What I can say is that I'm not familiar with some of the other retainers from previous attorneys. I have seen Mr. Cruz's retainer for the last 2 years.
Well, yeah, he was on for over a decade.
Well,
So there wasn't much before that.
Yeah. He was there, yeah, so I can't compare that. Mr. King's resolution and retainer appears to be the same hourly rate and the same as our previous attorney. The other question that you had asked had to do with escrow.
Well, I guess
the attorneys don't.
It seems to me that there might be a concern that somehow taxpayer funds are flowing through Mr. King, or that Mr. King's firm will be making payments to legal entities. So, in other words, if we have, let's say we have the tax appeals attorney. The tax appeals attorney will still be paid through our CFO and through that billing process. Is that correct?
The tax appeal attorney, any attorney's bills will still go through the review process. They will still go on a bills list that has to be approved by the Township Committee.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else?
Is there a contract, or is his contract available to be viewed somewhere where the public can see it?
There will be, yes.
There will be.
There will be?
We have a copy, yes.
Yeah. Can't be hacked out
Yes. So, yes, it's a public.
Oh, yeah,
document.
for the residents, yeah, I don't know if you post it.
Is there anybody else?
One more is Laura Ali.
Thank you, Greg, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, Laura Alley, 744 Fairmount Avenue in Chatham. I just wanted to ask the callers, and I did log in late, so I apologize, but I'm not really sure who can think it's a better solution for Chatham Township to use one attorney as a generalist to do everything: tax appeal, municipal attorney, human resource step, and prosecuting, defense. I don't know who would think that that's a good idea. I think that the direction you guys are going in is smart, very smart, and I've heard all of you on the dais agree with that. The second thing I wanted to say is I am uniquely positioned to say that I've worked with 4 of the 5 people that I'm looking at on the screen. And Celeste, this is no disrespect to you, I just don't know you. But I've worked with Stacy on the PTO, I've worked with Ashley, I've worked with Mark, and I've worked with Peter King. And all 4 of them are brilliant. They really are. And if we could get past this uncomfortable part of this transition of power, I think that Chatham Township's brightest days are ahead of us. Because I'm confident in a year from now that these people that we're looking at on the screen are going to come up with unique, incredible, and great solutions for our town. So I'm very confident and I'm very grateful to each of you. And I just wanted to say that. So thank you.
Thank you, Miss Ally. And that's it? All right, let's close the public hearing of citizens. All right. Yes, can I get a motion to introduce ordinance 2022-01 salary ordinance?
So moved.
I second.
Okay, is there any discussion from the committee members? Any discussion? All right, can we get a roll call vote?
Mrs. Ewald?
Yes.
Mrs. Fundaco?
Yes.
Mr. Lois?
Yes.
And Mayor Felice?
Yes.
Motion passes. Public hearing will be on February 8th.
Great. Can I get a motion to introduce ordinance 2022-02 colony pool fees?
So moved.
All right, any discussion?
Yes. Okay. Can't find my notes, but I'll have to wing it. I guess a couple of comments because this will go through public hearing and then we will vote on it finally. But as we've known in the past, when we have changes, it keeps getting pushed off. So I thought I would make those recommended changes now. I would be more comfortable if the range, I get this whole concept. So the concept for the benefit of residents is moving from where the committee comes in and approves the colony pool fees every year to authorizing the administrator a range of fees, and then he makes that decision as to what those fees will be in conjunction with the colony pool liaison from the committee. So, I mean, two things. One, I would be more comfortable with a narrower range, and then they have to come back for authorization above that. The other thing is we have the township administrator and consultant in consultation with the colony rec center liaison. I would recommend it also says, and with approval by the finance committee, because the finance committee needs to be comfortable with any of those changes to fees and how they're going to impact the bottom line, and that the analysis behind it is sound. So I would add that the finance committee needs to be a part of that review process.
Okay. Yeah.
Number 3.
Oh.
Is it number?
No,
no,
number
I'm
2.
sorry, it was 2, you're right. Yeah.
Okay.
So does the rest of the committee agree with that?
I'm fine with that.
No, absolutely not. Look, the purpose of this ordinance, okay, is to set the fees at colony. But the purpose of its restructuring is that last year it took about 7 weeks, 8 weeks to get to set colony pool fees. And the colony pool advisory committee can't move forward with membership drive until we have some idea of what the fees are going to be, especially anything to do with promotions, anything to do with what would drive an actual membership. So that's a problem. And what was happening in the past was that this became a yearly fiasco. And we can't have that. I mean, it slows everything down. And so what we did at the Colony Pool Committee last year, where I was the chairman, what happened there is that you would think fighting and squabbling over every membership category and moving something up $5 down $2, or that somehow that's going to really impact the bottom line of the club. But what happened was we doubled the membership and we tripled the revenue. And we did a lot of that with pilot programs that were not here, so that revenue is not even captured in this ordinance. And we're allowed to do pilot programs without setting them by ordinance. So there's a lot of sophistication that's here. The other thing that happened is that you're asking, rather, is that this be approved also by the Finance Committee. What that would mean is that the Colony Pool Committee would have to meet, give advice to the liaison. The liaison would then meet with the township administrator, and the township administrator would then meet with the finance committee on that schedule, and then that would then be fed back to the township administrator, and then I'm not sure who would check that advice except for the township administrator, or how those two things would be settled if there was a difference. So it just seems to me to be introducing yet another step. The reason why there is a good range here is that this ordinance would be set and then would stand multiple years. The minimums here are set basically at the rates that we had last year. Last year we had a very successful season. If we could repeat that, then our community would be in a good place, and the vibrancy of the club would be in a good place. So even if we just can agree that this ordinance is not perfect, but let's keep this ordinance the way that it is and pass this tonight as an introduction, we're going to be set to have the same year that we had last year. The other thing is that a finance committee would have 2 rotating members. Maybe they would have some experience in Colony Pool, maybe they wouldn't. The township administrators are likely to have experience with Colony Pool. The township...
Also, the township administrator is on the finance committee.
That's true, that sits in the finance committee. But the Colony Recreation Liaison is likely to have a lot of experience in Colony Pool. And there are things that happen at Colony Pool that seem to be maybe antithetical to your initial thinking. The #1 membership category is family membership. What do you think the #2 membership category is? Would you have a guess?
No, I don't have a guess.
Any? It's guest passes.
Guest passes.
Guest passes are a higher dollar value than any other membership category. And so, as the Colony Pool chairman, I look at this and I say, look, let's set the family membership. If you can agree on that, everything else is basically a moot point except for guest passes.
Yeah.
So things work in a way that are not exactly, you can get your hands around them. This is crafted very nicely. Other thing I'm going to highlight about this, which we haven't talked about, is that this really expands thank you to our township police. For the first time ever, we are putting the township police in the reduced fees for emergency response organization, and we are reducing the fees for all of our emergency response organization. Previously, it was 50% of whatever the fees were at Colony Pool, and this year we're doing any individual who signs up will sign up at the senior rate, which is set at a minimum of $60 for a township resident, and for a couple or a family membership, if you're part of one of those volunteer organizations for emergency response people, you will be charged just the senior couple rate, which is $115. So it's a little way to say thank you that we can give back to our volunteers who are LoSAP recipients. That's length of service award program, and also our township officers. So that's a little way we could say thank you. That's what's crafted into this ordinance, and I urge this committee to please pass this ordinance as it stands.
My thought process is simply, I thought your point that if we just duplicated last year for the next coming years, we're in a home run situation. Last year was fantastic, and if we can do that again, I think that's wonderful. Ultimately, we just want to avoid having to reintroduce a new ordinance every single year on fixed fees. That's really the main goal here. It takes a long time to introduce a new ordinance every year. You have to introduce it, and then you have a public hearing of citizens, then vote on it. Last time, I think it took like 6 weeks to pass our Colony Pool rates, and what happened was the Colony Pool Committee could not advertise the club during that time because they were designing mailers and flyers to promote the membership, and they couldn't put prices on it. So that delay was really kind of the issue of why we wanted to put this in place now, so that in future years it pretty much gives the discretion up to the township administrator with the Colony Pool Recreation Committee, and then ultimately having the approval here. But
And if we ever want to revisit these rates or find that this ordinance is not good, then it can simply be either repealed or revised. I mean, it's the same process. So, right, because it's an introduction and a set.
But the other issue too is once the administrator, and the administrator can speak for himself, and he's going to consult with CFO, and all the other township employees, then a resolution has to come before this board to set that fee. It's almost like a salary ordinance where you have a range. So every year every year you're going to have a resolution to set these fees.
But a
I
resolution
thought
is
this
what
was
he said.
bypassing it.
No. This allows us to not have to do an ordinance every year. So all we have to do is do a resolution, which is a lot easier, just at one meeting, quick. We all approve at that one meeting, the resolution, and that's it.
Oh, so the rates will still be in front of the public?
Yes, and they will still be, we will ultimately vote on them.
Yeah, so the resolution would be dealt with at one meeting and could be amended on the fly, whereas an ordinance, we have to go through the introduction, debate, advertise, which costs money.
I mean, as long as this committee and the public has an opportunity for input, then I'm
Yes.
fine.
Yes, for sure. Ultimately, the final call is with us, this committee. It's more of the discretion that Bob and the Colony Pool Committee come together with a proposal, and it's in front of us.
Okay. Got it.
That was the thought process. That's how we formulated it.
So I believe the general idea was to have it function like the salary ordinance that was previously dealt with.
Is there any other discussion on this?
I move that we approve ordinance
We're going to have
2022.
the motion in the second.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is there any other discussion or anything? All right, can we get a roll call vote?
Mrs. Ewald?
Yes.
Mrs. Fundaco?
Yes.
Mr. Lois?
Yes.
And Mayor Felice?
Yes.
Motion passes and public hearing on February 8th.
Point of information, just from the clerk, when we move something, we don't move it to the floor and then move to approve? We move to approve and bring it to the floor simultaneously?
Motion was made to introduce it, and it's, having the motion becomes the discussion topic. Here we're discussing the motion to introduce the ordinance.
Okay, so we're bringing it on, and we're bringing the motion before us, and we're moving to approve it with one motion, essentially. Okay.
And then then it's advertised in the newspaper, and
Yes.
a second hearing, public will.
All right, I guess now we're moving to the consent agenda?
Yes, I'll quick read off the list of what we're dealing with as consent. That'll be Resolution 2022-45, payment of bills, 2022-46, receipt of reports, 2022-47, approving meeting minutes, 2022-48, release of escrow balances, 2022-50, authorizing litigation settlement agreement, then dropping down to 2022-54, authorizing purchase of AV equipment for broadcast purposes, 2022-55, snow plowing, and 2022-56, appointing committee members.
Okay, can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
A second?
A second?
Can we get a roll call?
Mrs. Ewald?
Yes.
Mrs. Fundaco?
Yes.
Mr. Lois?
Yes.
And Mayor Felice?
Yes.
Motion passes. Then next up, Mayor, we have the 2022-51, authorizing change in legal strategy.
Okay. We've kind of talked about this one to death. Anybody else have anything else to say on this?
Did you want to move in second
Yeah, do you
first?
wanna-
Can we have a motion to, can I, yeah,
I move that we approve 2022-051.
second?
I'll second.
Or is that? Okay. Is there a discussion?
Yes, if I
Yes.
may.
Yes.
We just so residents know, I do expect to reduce attorney fees regardless of the legal strategy, because we don't have our third round is settled, our third round housing element, and the Charlie Brown site is settled. So I expect our attorney fees to come down dramatically. I agree with the legal strategy. I guess I was a little confused as to why we even need this ordinance, and I just want to make sure everybody's clear on stuff. Mr. Hoffman, so that I'm clear on it, our labor council is a separate, that is a separate contract.
Yes.
Correct. Municipal prosecution, that's new, and that we already issued the RFQ. Municipal prosecution?
Mhm.
The RFQ went out for that already, right?
Yes.
But that's not a new position. We've had a municipal prosecutor.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm
Not
mixing it up with
Dorsey.
I'm mixing it up with the other one, you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's a separate contract. Conflict litigation is the one that's new, but that one, the RFQ went out.
Yes.
Okay. Affordable housing is new, and an RFQ went out for that?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, this one I just totally didn't understand. Pilot negotiations, I thought was a finance one. What is public entity disputes?
If there's any, I guess, litigation with a public entity or.
Yeah, what would that look like? That's what I'm trying to, as opposed to other litigation.
Sometimes you want expertise with people that that's all they do with, like, very.
ADR, maybe an ADR, if you have a dispute, it has to go to ADR. There's firms that just deal in alternate dispute resolution.
Okay.
That could be there. A pilot is a very specific, I was involved in, pilots before as the attorney for the municipal governing body, but they have two types of attorneys. They have one that's a finance attorney, and then one, a land use that just does pilots, because there's other types of bonding. There's monies from the town that could go into rebuilding of roads, and it's very complicated, and then there are specific attorneys who just do that.
Okay, because when I was thinking pilot attorneys, I thought that would be captured under kind of affordable housing redevelopment, but you're saying there's a benefit to a separate pilot attorney expert, okay.
They're almost like they're attorneys and they're financial geniuses. They come up with all these numbers and they crunch numbers and
Okay.
spreadsheets, and they talk about, what the differential will be in your school if you do a pilot, and each year how much you would get this way, and certain, assessments on land. You can do pilots for 15 years, 20 years, and it's very complicated.
Okay. Yeah, normally I've seen that with finance experts, that's what I was just wondering. And then tax appeals, it was with our other firm, but it is a separate expert. Bond counsel is a separate entity. So I was just confused because between the RFQs, I didn't even understand why we were issuing this. I think we're in agreement on the approach because we authorized the RFQs last time. And I guess the other comment I have, Mr. Kelly had mentioned this earlier, I would suggest removing the section that says an improvement in efficiency is expected to drive down overall costs. I mean, until we get bids, I don't know that we can commit that to the public, so I was a little uncomfortable with that statement. But, and like I said, overall costs will go down more so because there isn't the work to give out. But in my experience, specialists cost more money, and I understand there's, some expected efficiencies, but I was uncomfortable locking that commitment into a resolution.
In the RFQs, the rate that was set was the same rate of last year's. It's 165, I believe, correct? For all the RFQs for legal work.
I'm not sure.
I believe that's what it is. So it shouldn't be any more than last year if it was the same legal work. Is what I'm saying. In fact, it should probably be
For the
less.
specialist?
Yes.
Oh, so there was like a max limit on in the RFQ? Because I didn't see the RFQs.
Yes.
I didn't receive the RFQs. Okay.
It was?
That's what
I
I
thought that's
saw.
the point of an RFQ, is that people give you their bid along with their qualifications. Yeah.
RFP is for proposal.
Yeah.
But this was an RFQ for qualifications, so they're going, these attorneys are gonna go out, and there's a hourly rate that, 165, this is what it is. They accept it, they get on a list, so you could have 5 bond counsel attorneys. So instead of being stuck with one bond counsel for the year, if you have multiple different bonds that have to be, let out, you may have one person and it becomes a problem.
King, could you explain that? Because I think that's being lost. This is a very different legal strategy.
Yes.
This is not last year's legal strategy. There are positions that overlap, but those positions will not really be positions in some cases. They will be lists. And I think you really, please, for our public, if you could just break it down very slowly.
You have columns, you went through the categories. So you're hopefully gonna get attorneys who are going to send in the
Their qualifications.
They're gonna be vetted. Hopefully you get 5, 10 attorneys for labor. litigation comes up, you have one, you may find that you weren't happy with that attorney, so you could go to someone else on that list, so you're not locked into just one person, and
Within the same year, Mr. King.
Within the same year, correct. Every year you have to do this, and hopefully every year you get a pool of those attorneys, and
It allows us flexibility.
absolutely. And you may find that some labor attorneys are better in contract negotiations. You may find that some are better going to PERC or responding to police. You have some that may be better with DPW, and that gives you more flexibility. Law has become very complex, and I know my limits. I did not do the low-income housing or fair share, because that's a specialty. And you
Yeah, again, I don't object to the process. It's, I just didn't understand why we needed a resolution for it.
It's more of letting everybody know, like, so basically we're trying to create lists of attorneys that we can pull from when we need them. So we're doing the RFQs now to get that list of attorneys, of specialists, and all of which where we can decide on an hourly basis, okay, we want you to do this. So we're not having retainers with these attorneys. They're just going to be hourly. Our retainer is only with Mr. King, right? I'm just making this, trying to simplify it as easy as possible.
It's going to be a contract not to exceed.
Mhm.
So you have a finite, you can't have something going off the rails and all of a sudden, before you turn around, the legal bill is just out of control.
Yeah, I know each of those would be authorized anyway.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So will we be entering contracts with attorneys, or will we just have a pool of
Well,
attorneys?
you have them on, but you're going to do a resolution appointing to cover this litigation not to
Okay,
exceed.
so appoint them as a pool of attorneys rather than a normal one-year contract for one specific attorney?
Absolutely. That's correct. But there'll be a resolution appointing to that one matter, what the rate is.
And there might be a few appointed for particular.
You could,
You don't know what comes up.
I doubt it. I doubt it. But
Okay, Ms. Bob.
Okay. Just as a point of clarification, we've issued RFQs on 6 out of the 7. We haven't issued RFQs for the public entity dispute and pilot negotiations. That's an addition. That wasn't on the list, the resolution from last meeting, so we will have to do that.
Okay.
And I would also just add that it does say, but not limited to. So there could be other areas of law that we might need someone for, and that we didn't feel was adequately covered, and this might happen again. And just so the public is clear, because you get this RFP, RFQ, what is it? RFQ is request for qualifications. Those qualifications are basically firm resumes. That's what that is. And we set the rate. So RFP would be, hey, can you give us a proposal? What do you think we need? What would you be willing to work for? It's a messier process with a lot more involved, and then trying to level those things out is difficult. And that's just the nature of that process. This is a different process. It's a qualification. You're basically saying, hey, there's a job here, and we might have something that comes up. Do you want to be on our list? That's my understanding of it.
Yeah. Exactly right. All right, is there any other discussions?
So does this have to be amended so we authorize the RFQ for the public entity?
Why? That's the ordinance. That's the resolution. That's before it doesn't have to be amended because it's the resolution.
Yes, we would need a separate to do an RFQ for the public entities.
Oh, to send it out.
Yes.
Well, I guess that resolution is authorizing those 7 items.
So
you could send that one out when you want. It'd be a different time coming back.
Maybe we could give it
Okay.
All right, can we move to a vote?
Yes, Mrs. Ewald?
Yes.
Mrs. Fundaco?
Yes.
Mr. Lois?
Yes.
And Mayor Felice?
Yes.
Motion passes. Next up would be 2022-053, the open space.
Great. Can I get a motion to introduce?
So moved.
And a second?
I second.
There'll be a motion to adopt it.
To adopt, thank you.
my question from earlier.
Yeah, so
That's what I need to.
I had pulled this out. Again, this is another one where I didn't understand the point because we already use the open space tax for park upgrades. I know Mr. Lois says it hasn't been done, but that's because for years the rate was cut less than 2%, basically 2 cents. And it was just used to pay down debt. That was the extent of it. So there were no funds set aside for park upgrades. But the ordinance, which you actually have in this resolution, says exactly that you could use it for park upgrades. The other question I had, so I just felt this was busy work. But the other question I had was when the skate park committee came in last year and talked about that, wanting to get the designation for this space over here at the municipal building, Mrs. Felice had suggested a survey be used to find out community priorities. And I was just wondering if that's a part of the plan. To do that
Yeah, I mean, I would welcome that idea. I know I've been speaking with Open Space Chairman on some ideas as well. I'm okay with doing a survey of priorities.
I would be in support of a survey of priorities to our volunteer boards, to those committees which it affected, and or which were eligible to
Maybe
to
Recreation
contribute.
Committee and Open Space.
Sure, that makes a lot of sense. We are a representative form of government. That is the most efficient way. You have people that are extremely interested in whatever topic, committee, whatever it is, on those boards. Going generally to the public, unfortunately, even in our last election, in this township, we had less than 60% participation in our election, and as that worked out so closely, that's 30% of the town in one direction, 30% of the town the other direction. Actually, less than that. So even that's a minority. Even those elections are a minority. And then if you were to then put out any one issue, you would have a tremendous number of responses back from a very, very small sliver of people, which then skews things. So I feel that a representative form of government that was set by our founders is the way to go, and we have representative boards and chair people that are on those boards.
Can we, what about, essentially, we are going to be making the final decision on where the money from the Open Space Fund, on what projects they will be used. Perhaps, we can brainstorm ideas on ways to include the public in some manner.
Well, there was an article in Patch just this week.
Right.
I believe it was this week. It could have
Yes.
been this weekend. And there was public input. A lot of those comments that were there, certainly I looked over them, and I think they match up so much with our priorities already. I think there's going to be a tremendous amount of overlap. I would hate to see the public's money, which has been tied up and hasn't done upgrades and improvements and maintenance to our open space ever. I would hate to see it tied up for longer. I think that our people, our residents, our taxpayers that paid this, that they deserve to have something come back to them sooner. We can't wait a lifetime for quality of life improvements. And asking them to wait another 6 weeks to get back surveys, to then go through them, to then debate them on this dais, it just seems to me to be not productive, especially if we want to do things like get the bathrooms open at Shumpike Field for baseball season. That would be wonderful, wouldn't it? And if we can act, there are things that are in our common interest. They're going to come here anyway, and I'm elected, to represent, and so are other people here.
And what if we were to put out our ideas to the public, well ahead of time, to give everybody the opportunity, if they wanted to come to a meeting or email us or something to that extent, where we can still balance ultimately it's going to be us making the decision, and honestly it's going to be with a lot of the help from the Open Space and the Recreation Committee on what they feel that is needed the most. And I think we all, of course, welcome the input of the public on these situations. If maybe we can throw out ideas, maybe we can do a very quick informal survey for the next meeting of just like
But even Miss Ewald,
Yeah.
you're the liaison to the senior center. I mean, obviously, Bob there definitely put into that agreement from babies to seniors, and I think that's a great thing. You bring back a report from them, beautiful. Let's hear what they have to say.
Right. So yeah, the seniors,
Oh,
they want to
again,
use.
I'm just segueing
Yeah.
off of what Mrs. Felice had suggested when we were talking about, and because there were concerns about why do we pick it for,
Right, no,
why
I
do we
understand.
utilize that for the skate park as opposed to, something else? Or there's some people who would like to see ice hockey.
Right,
ice hockey,
right, ice skating.
Permanent ice over at Nash Field, there's a number of recommendations. So maybe it isn't a public survey, but whatever forum we think is an efficient.
Yeah, I
way
mean, I
to-
think we're all in
yeah.
agreement here.
Yeah.
We all definitely, we just want to find the best use of our money to improve our recreation and our open space.
Right.
We're all in agreement. I guess it's more of, finding a way where we can all prioritize and pick.
So I guess because I didn't understand, given that we already know that we can do this, is there any other goal to this resolution that I'm missing?
It was more of letting everybody know that we wanted to put forward a large, a large portion of our current open space fund towards actually doing it immediately. It's more authorizing, Bob and our CFO and everybody to move forward on this starting right away, so we can, like you said, try and get those bathrooms open so we can get some cameras. I know surveillance cameras has been needed.
Well, hold on. The thing is, though, I mean, our committee meeting is, our committee meeting for finance is going to happen in February, right? So we're going to be setting a budget very soon. So that's my concern about waiting, getting feedback.
No, it needs to be done right away.
We won't be able to set our priorities. We won't be able to move forward with results. And I think people, I'll say it again, can't wait a lifetime for quality of life improvements. We've seen a little too much of that.
Yeah, I'm definitely all for opening bathrooms at Shunpike.
Right.
Can you
But
use
listen-
that money for cameras? I mean, that doesn't sound.
Listen, I'm just going to reference back to Robert's Rule of Order. Our resolution before us is, do we want to approve this resolution? It's not to debate every contingency or eventuality in the future, and doing that is only distracting from the public. So, there will be other opportunity to look at that.
That's
So I
perfectly
moved-
fine,
I
like I
moved
said.
it, yeah.
I wanted to make sure there wasn't anything that I was missing, that there weren't dollars that were already anticipated or anything else.
No. This is it's more of letting everybody know we're going to start this right away and authorizing our administrator and our CFO. Let's go. That's really what it is.
The other thing too is once you identify these projects, they still have to go through the proper process to, if you're going to bid, if you're going to do an improvement that internally you can't do with your DPW or your workers here, you're going to have to go out to get contracts. So it's going to have to go through that process. So it'll come back to you. But I think what the purpose is to start this now. Identify. I think you've identified one of these bathrooms.
Right.
Put that in the pipeline, and then you prioritize being able to do a master plan or a plan of these upgrades and improvements.
Yeah, one idea that we need to come up with is like a mini master plan of our recreation and our open space so that we have an actual plan to improve and maintain it properly. And that's kind of a nice big project that, our open space committee can help with as well. Just to get really a game plan of how to move forward, because there's a lot of things that need to be maintained
Well,
properly.
and I think that's the right answer. That's why I asked Mr. Basralian about that, because I think there needs to be some planning and some input.
Totally agree.
Okay.
Totally agree. Can we get a vote?
Yes. Mrs. Ewald?
Yes.
Mrs. Fundaco?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis?
Yes.
Mayor Felice?
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, I think we're done. Can we... Motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Thank you very much.